Marjorie is the CEO of Blue Volcano Media. They are an absolutely fabulous social media brand. She's a dynamic woman with a great message. Please help me welcome Marjorie Asturias.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Terry. You're talking about growing your business, and David was talking about why you're here, so I wanted to start off a little bit with just kind of telling you why I'm here and why I'm talking about social media. If someone had told me 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, when I was a scruffy freelance writer, journalist who mostly worked from home, had a great diet of Coke and Cheetos, that I would be standing in front of a group of business owners and consultants talking about Twitter, in a business suit, no less, I would be like, give me some more of that Chivas Regal. At the time, I was in between assignments. This was about late 2007. I was in between assignments, and when you're a freelance writer and you're in between assignments, you're kind of bored, you don't really want to watch TV, you fire up the computer and see, well, what else is going on in the world? And I had started a blog just to fill in the time between assignments, and I'd heard about Twitter. And at the time, there were only about, believe it or not, 1 million people on Twitter. It was a very small village at the time. But I was living in a small town in Colorado. There weren't a whole lot of people around. Everyone else had a real job. So I thought, well, maybe I can make some friends here. And so I just kind of started on it. I was talking about my blog, talking about life. And I would look up, and my husband would be home. And I'm like, didn't you just leave? And he said, have you been in those clothes all day? And he'd ask me, so what have you been doing? I said, well, I was tweeting all day. And he'd always have this weird look on his face. He's like, is that legal? Or, but you look like you're having fun, so more power to you. So that's kind of how I got started in it. But it took me a while to realize that, this could actually be a business application. It took me years, like 3 or 4 years, to realize it because I was having so much fun. The mere thought of being paid to do something like this was just completely foreign to me. So that's my background. And so it's not really a whole lot farther back than most of your background is in social media. I'm sure a lot of you are doing it right now and doing it very well. But I wanted to talk about, most of us know already what a Twitter account is, what Facebook is. There was a time when all the speeches were all about, how to open an account. A lot of you probably already have an account. A lot of you are probably on Facebook. So I wanted to take it a step further and talk about, okay, we're all here to learn how to grow our business. How can I use social media to do just that? And some of you may do it very well. There are a lot of great examples of companies now that are harnessing the power of social media to grow their business. But I'm going to go on the assumption that there's a reason why you're here listening to me instead of going over there drinking or eating cupcakes. So I'm going to assume that you want to know what the secret sauce is, if I may borrow a term from Terry, on how to grow your business using social media. So let me start with a definition of social media. Got this from Wikipedia. It is media for social interaction using highly accessible and scalable communication techniques. The term refers to the use of web-based and mobile technologies to turn communication into interactive dialogue. Blah, 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 blah. There was a time when the definition of social media was user-generated content, and I much, much prefer that term because, over here, the term user isn't even used. But really, that's how it started. Folks like me who had a computer and internet access who wanted to create content instead of being fed content. And it wasn't just because I was a creative. There was clearly a zeitgeist happening where people decided, I want to have a voice, and oh my God, I now have a platform for it. For the cost of, $20 a month for your internet. So it's user-generated content. But what we're talking about here is how it can be applied in a business platform. And most of you are familiar with these logos. You know Facebook and Twitter. You've got, I hope this is the pointer. Okay. You've got LinkedIn. This is Tumblr. Some of you might be familiar with Tumblr. It's like a microblogging service. YouTube, Flickr. Plurk was my early favorite. There's very few people on it now. I think there may be less than 2 million people. I just use it because I love the term plurk. I just put it up there. Because I think it's even funnier than Twitter. What have you been doing today? I've been plurking. And of course, MySpace. So let's kind of go back a little bit, back when Twitter was a village and Facebook was just a twinkle in Mark Zuckerberg's eyes. I wanted to sort of establish where we were even just 5 years ago. Because it's sort of like when I was watching something on the Discovery Channel the other day, and they were talking about how we're, it's 186,000 miles, 186,000 miles is the light year, and how the human brain cannot fathom numbers that have multiple zeros. Social media is not, an astronomical thing, but so much has changed in the past few years. So I want to kind of go back and remind us where we came from. 2006, just 6 years ago, it started out as an SMS service by a company called Odeo. It was a podcasting company. They just wanted to be able to communicate in-house. That's how it got started. Facebook was created just 8 years ago by Mark Zuckerberg. It was originally just for Harvard students, for his fellow alums from Harvard, or fellow classmates at Harvard, just to be able to network with each other on this platform. YouTube was created in 2005 by former PayPal employees. Unlike Facebook and Twitter, YouTube was actually created from the very beginning as a company, as a commercial entity. Tumblr launched in 2007, and of course blogs have been around since the 80s, actually late 80s, early 90s. Nobody really knows how it got started. It just sort of grew organically, but we can probably pinpoint it to about the early 90s. And now we're here. I remember I got started in Twitter in 2007. There were 1 million people on Twitter, I think 950,000. So 5 years later now, 140 million active users. A lot more accounts, but when we're talking about people who actually use it, they're about 140 million. This number here is valid as of a couple of weeks ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the summer we're looking at 1 billion people. YouTube was bought by Google for about a couple $2 billion. 72 hours of video uploaded every minute. Just in March, we were looking at 36 hours of video uploaded every minute. So wait, I was a political science major. It's doubled. It's been doubled since March. It doubled since March. Tumblr was started in 2007. There are now almost 60 million blogs on Tumblr. And of course, there are now nearly 164 million blogs. I've contributed to that huge amount with about 65,000 new blogs added every 24 hours. So that's where we are now. That's what we're looking at. That's the audience that's out there. That's, they have a voice, they have a platform, they have something to say. Used to be it was just people. Now, a lot of companies are doing it. That's why I'm up here talking to you. So, this is a lot of numbers. It's kind of like light years, like the distance between here and Pluto. So why should you care? Why should you care that there are almost 1 billion people on Facebook or 140 million people on Twitter? It's because it's where your customers are. You're here because you want to grow your business, and growing your business, unfortunately, requires actually going out and getting people to jump on this bandwagon with you. So that's why you need to pay attention to social media. Just 5 years ago, most business owners that I talked to would ask me, or 3 or 4 years ago, they would ask me, should I be on social media? And even just 3 or 4 years ago, my answer was, well, it kind of depends. If you're a local plumber, you might not need to be on social media. You probably have a lot of referrals. You probably have a lot of customers who refer you to their clients. But now, I can't think of a single business that doesn't need social media. Not just because of the number of people out there, but because the way people search for services and products is completely different now. Before, someone would ask, or I would ask someone, well, can you recommend a plumber? And, hey, Joe Smith is a great plumber. And I'll go call Joe Smith and set up an appointment. But now, a lot of us, including me, even if it's someone I trust, what do? I get the name Joe Smith, I Google it. I want to know if they have a presence on Twitter or Facebook. I want to see, what other people have talked about. And it's not just because I don't trust them, it's just that, it's just become such a part of our lives now. We don't just take things at face value anymore. You want to know a little bit more. We are so hungry for information, even when it's trivial information. Okay, so now you have all these people who are on social media. You have plumbers, you have roofers, you have electricians, you have lemonade stands on Twitter or Facebook. Now the question that people ask me is not, should I be on social media? Now the question is, why is my social media not working? It's because, it could be simply because maybe you're on the wrong platform. But most of the time, it's because you don't provide them something that shows them that they are the center of your universe. Jeff Brady, who is going to speak on a wonderful, wonderful topic, he's got this really cool pin that I saw earlier. that I thought was really great. It says people matter. And I think in the middle of all the trivial, the day-to-day stuff of running a business, it can be easy to forget that that's the whole point of being in a business, is that you want to serve people. It's actually people who buy your products and services. But we get so focused on the minutia of running day-to-day that we forget that part, and it shows in our social media. It shows that you don't care about the people. You may not do it as a deliberate strategy. It's not really a great strategy, by the way, is to not care about people. But it's coming out. And that's why I'm here. Here's a reason why, it could be a reason why your audience thinks you don't care, even if it's not something that's a deliberate strategy, which I hope it's not. You have crappy content. And I asked David before, can I use the word crappy? Yeah. And I said, well, it's late in the day. There's going to be alcohol. So, okay, great. So crappy content. You can't read this. That's okay. You really shouldn't, because there's nothing there. This was written for search engines. I'm not going to tell you which site this was, but this was written solely for search engines. And the last time I checked, search engines are not people. So, it's kind of like Soylent Green. They're not people. So this was created not because it was useful to someone, but because someone told this company, or maybe they just took it upon themselves, put lots of keywords out there, and you've got a great website. So, that's an immediate turnoff. Another reason why your audience thinks you don't care is because your social media, you're using it as a sales channel. It's marketing, it's PR, it's relationship building, it's lead nurturing, but it's definitely not sales. Some of you may get lucky. I got lucky the first time I attended a chamber event. I got a customer that same day. It didn't take me long to realize that was luck. It had nothing to do with my charm or personality or because I had a great service. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Most of the time, you have to work at it. But in order to get your sales, you really have to prove your value. But, people open up that Twitter account. I see it all the time. They slap their catalogs, page by page. Every blog post is just a page from the catalog. Every tweet, hey, 20% off, this, 15% off, we've got a sale today. I mean, Starbucks does that, but Starbucks has a really strong brand, and in their social media, even if it's a discount coupon that they're offering, it's got a personality. So, if this is what you're doing, please stop. For the love of God, please stop. Why they don't think you care? Because you're boring them. It's so easy to get bored on the internet now, right? That's why they say that the average web visitor spends about 3 seconds on your site before they move on to something else. If they don't find value, what's sad is that 2 years ago, the statistic I heard was 6 seconds. I mean, our attention spans are getting shorter and websites are getting more boring. So, again, if you're doing this, please stop. If you don't know if your site is boring or not, have someone else ask you, and not a friend, because friends are always going to tell you, oh my God, I love your website. Everyone knows spam, Don't spam. Most of us know what spam is. I can guarantee, I don't want to guarantee you. I've been to conferences where at the end of the conference, I go back to my office and lo and behold, someone added me to their newsletter. Who was it? I don't know. Did I give my business card to someone? Probably. And they just went back to their office and put it in their constant contact or their MailChimp. The next thing you know, I'm on a newsletter for something I have no interest in. And I have even less interest now in market as spam. People have a lot less patience now for things like unsolicited email. And it's actually a federal offense if you're sending out spam. Didn't know that, did you? There's actually a federal law against that. There is, seriously. There's a federal law against this spam. You're stalking people. You're spammy stalking people. Those of you who are on Twitter probably understand what this means. You follow somebody. I get this all the time. I get porn stars following me all the time because they want to be followed. Or at least I think they're porn stars because they're pictures. I don't follow them. Not even for research. But they follow me only because they want to get on my radar and they think, oh, she's going to follow me back. And as soon as she follows me back, then I'm going to unfollow her. It's like dating, only more annoying, right? You're constantly playing mind games with your spammers. Do not be that person. Again, people have less patience. They're becoming more, I don't want to say cynical because there's a negative connotation to that, but they're much more cautious now. So, be genuine, be authentic. Okay, so now we've kind of run through some of the really bad practices of social media and why yours might not be working. I'm sure that all of you none of you are doing any of the things that I just talked about, but just in case, kind of think about what you're doing on social media. Am I doing this? Is my content crap? Am I boring people? Am I spamming people? And sometimes we do it not because it's a deliberate strategy, but because, most of us, when small business owners in the past, we didn't have a whole lot of marketing channels because it was so expensive. Someone told me that when they were doing Yellow Pages ads, it's an exterminator, he was doing Yellow Pages ads 10 years ago. It was $1,000 a month for 12 months. I think it was a full page ad. But you're locked into it, right? Because the Yellow Pages only come out once a year. So, and that was it. That was their marketing channel. There was no Angie's List. There was no websites. There was no social media. So I think most people who do this, who do the bad practices, are not because they want to hurt people or because they want to annoy people. I think it's just that there's still this transition period where people are realizing, okay, it's free. It's so exciting. I can do this myself. I don't have to hire somebody to do it. But they're still thinking about the old Yellow Pages version of it. Just create this content and just keep pushing it out there. Sit back and just wait for the customers to come. It's totally different now. It's a different world, and folks like me are here. Lots of us out there. A lot of really good social media consultants out there. A lot of really good classes out there. So we have to start thinking differently about how we communicate with our customers, because our customers are already communicating differently. So we need to keep up with that. I included this just because I thought it was really great. I thought the sentiment behind it is great. The best part about it is there are those who just talk about themselves, and that's most brands. Those are the brands that were doing all those bad practices that we were talking about. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I'm one of those people who was doing the crappy content. I saw a customer yawn when they looked at my website. Don't feel bad. Not just because of what I talked about, how we're all in a transition, but because big brands do it too. I'm sure a lot of you who don't have enough time, don't have enough to do in your life and pay a lot of attention to social media news, have heard some scandal involving a major company like Chrysler is one that had a big social media faux pas that they're still paying for now, that we're still talking about now. I bring it up all the time. Because it's a great case study about even the big brands are having a hard time, really embracing social media and learning how it works. So, think about that. This is a really good, if you have to think about what does social media mean, it's talking about ideas. Don't talk about yourself. Just talking about ideas. Ideas are what drives your business, and that ideas are what people are looking for when they look for your product or service. Best practices. So this is where we talk about, okay, we talked about what doesn't work. Now we're going to talk about what does work. And for confidentiality reasons, I can't reveal some of my clients except for one client. But we're going to talk about some of the bigger brands that you might have heard about. And it's just fun talking about the big brands because everyone recognizes it. Here's some examples of companies that do it right. They don't do it right 100% of the time. Even Starbucks had a stumble. But these are the companies that if you Google social media best practices, these come up time and time and time again. And most of these brands, who knows every single one of these brands? Okay. Most of these brands are familiar. You might not know every single one of them. Some of them are niche brands. Some of them, probably most of you in your home life have never had to call Caterpillar to order something. But they're pretty familiar brands. And some of these are not that familiar. They're very niche, but in that niche, they own that niche. And because they did it because of social media. So the first one is LL Bean. And I'm full disclosure, I'm a very loyal customer of LL Bean long before social media. LL Bean, as you probably know, long before social media, they were well known for their service. They're like Nordstrom's. You can return anything, anytime. You can take that duck boot, put a nuclear bomb in it, explode it, call LL Bean, want to return it, and they'll take it back, no questions asked. They took that customer service orientation, translated it to social media, and they're doing very, very well, extremely well. The fun part about it is that they just started using social media. They just hired a social media team in December. So if you look at their numbers, they're not, 12,000 numbers is not that big. But for a company that's 100 years old, But they're getting there. They've opened up a lot. These are all their Twitter accounts. It's not just one. They have tons of Twitter accounts. They've got one for service, one for careers, one for PR. But they really took a deliberate step. They said, okay, this is where, not only did they say we're going to open a Twitter account, but they said, okay, we're going to do this right. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. We're going to do this right. There was a study that was done by a customer outreach firm that found that LL Bean had 100% response time on Twitter over a 24-hour period. That means that every single tweet to LL Bean, they responded to within 24 hours. Only 2 companies in that study accomplished that. The others, like Dell, they're like 98%, 96%, but LL Bean was one, said the other one. The company I'm going to talk about last was the other one. They were found to be the most responsive retailer on Twitter. Go ahead, tweet something about to LL Bean right now and let me know if they respond to you, for those of you who have it on your smartphone. So while they may have a small community, huge impact, huge impact. They use it as, this one right here, this is primarily, this is where they talk about their sales or services. They talk about, maybe duck hunting that some of the employees did. This is mostly about LL Bean, but they do respond to their clients. And they have another one that's all about service. So someone complained on Facebook that they keep getting their catalogs. And they're never going to buy from LL Bean again if they keep getting their catalogs. Actually, it may have been me because I was complaining about that too. But they responded right away. I know that sounds really weird to say. It's like, oh my God, they actually responded. But you'd be surprised how few companies do even that basic thing, just responding to a customer complaint. Okay, who knows Blendtec? For those of you who don't know Blendtec, after you tweet LL Bean, look up Blendtec. Or you just go to YouTube and search for Will It Blend. I love it. You just ask somebody who knows Blendtec and you say, will it blend? They're like, oh my God, I know that guy. This right here is an iPhone. Yeah, it took a couple of minutes, but it blends. The question was, will it blend? So this iPhone, in a couple of minutes, went from iPhone to carbon dust. Blendtec is a company that's been around, I think, 30 years, and they have the commercial division. They sell blenders to Jamba Juice and so forth, but they had this consumer division that they were really trying to get off the ground. They had a really good brand on commercial, but not in consumers. So well, what are we going to do? And someone had the brilliant idea of getting the founder of the company, Tom Dixon, this gentleman right here, say, why don't you put on a lab coat, stick yourself in front of a studio with a sort of a 70s feel. We'll put a non-high definition camera on a tripod so at least it's not jiggling around. And here's an iPhone. Well, actually it wasn't an iPhone, but here's an iPhone. And see if it blends. And we'll put it on YouTube. Right? I would love to have been in that marketing meeting. This video alone has 10 million views on YouTube. I'm not a customer of theirs. I can't afford a $1,000 blender. But if someone asks me, where can I get a blender? I may not say go get a Blendtec, but I will say, well, before you get a blender, you have to go to YouTube and see this thing. It was a viral video. 600% growth. 600% growth just from this alone. And they have not done anything about their production values. It still looks really cheap and crappy, but people keep coming back. The latest thing I heard they did was the iPad. Will it blend? Yes, it will. Actually, because it's kind of big, it will blend. What they did was they took there's the base. What is the thing, there's the base? Yeah, the carafe. They took the carafe off. Then they smashed the iPad on top of it. And then they put the remaining pieces inside because it was too big to fit into the carafe.
Do they hate Apple or something?
Whether or not they hate Apple doesn't really matter. I don't know, but it's...
Just about anything.
Yeah. Yeah, Google, YouTube, Google, search Chuck Norris. Will it blend? For those of you who are familiar with the Chuck Norris meme that's going around on search engines. Starbucks. Who has never been to a Starbucks? Ever? Even people who don't like Starbucks occasionally will go to Starbucks. I believe it was Mike Rose at the last summit who talked about the fact that at Starbucks it's not about the coffee. There's actually a book titled that. It's not about the coffee. They position themselves as the third place between the home and the office. You know, it's not about coffee shops. A lot of people say there are better coffees elsewhere. But there's just something about Starbucks brand that keeps 30 million people going to their website. They tweet something, they put up a Facebook post, sometimes there are thousands of comments. It's a community. It's not a coffee shop anymore. It was named the nation's most socially engaged company. And they are active on Twitter. They're active on Facebook, always. They were one of the pioneers there. Howard Schultz, you know, he said, I know those of you who read his book, Onward, which is a really good business book. You know, he wasn't really sure about Twitter, but he understood. He didn't have to understand. It was kind of like me, where I don't know where this is going. There's very few people on there. But he said, well, this is where a lot of people are talking. And that's what Starbucks is, a place where people talk. You know, people create ideas, people write books, people launch their businesses. I'm sure some of you have run your businesses out of Starbucks. So we need to be there. And it has since just taken off. 30 million people on their Facebook page. The Dollar Shave Club. Okay, who has heard of the Dollar Shave Club? Oh my God, this is even funnier than the Will It Blend guy. I wish I could play it. It's hard to do it here, but there's also really, there's the F word in there too. But this was a company that was started in March. And essentially what it is, it's, I think for $1, you get a couple of razors a month. It's essentially a mail order razor company. It's very cheap. Gentleman right here is Mike Dubin. He's the founder or co-founder. And he created this video. They didn't have a big marketing budget. They do have investors, but they didn't have a big marketing budget. So he created this video, and it's just very, very funny. The production values are much higher, but I wish I could describe it because he essentially just goes through the whole warehouse. And he's completely oblivious to all these OSHA hazards around him. He's just talking about the blades. But the video, they had 12,000 people signed up within 48 hours after this video launched. I don't even remember how I found it, but my husband's on it. So, they found this niche. It's a basic commodity, right? I mean, Gillette keeps rolling out all these multi-blade commercials, and they have these big marketing campaigns. But someone found that, and they practically own the blade business. And all of a sudden someone said, there's a different way that I could look at it. And then we're going to create this video. And this right here, this was actually a comment on YouTube. Shut up and take my money. Love that. I love that. It's just a hilarious video. So you have to look it up. It's dollarshaveclub.com. So this is a great use of social media. Like I said, didn't have a very big budget, but they figured out a way to attract a lot of customers. They're very lucky because he's actually a stand-up. He used to be a stand-up comedian. So they had a creative mind already on their team. And you don't have to get 5 million views on your YouTube video, but videos are a very powerful tool to get the word out there, with YouTube being the second largest search engine on the internet. If you're not trying video out, you should. Even if you don't have a Will It Blend idea right away, YouTube is a great, great place to get your brand out there and to get people talking about your business. Caterpillar. Who has ordered something from Caterpillar? No, really? No way. Okay, apparently there's a consumer division.
I worked for them during high school for one summer.
Oh, well, there you go. I was trying to think of a B2B company that had a good social media platform that wasn't already talked about. GE, everybody knows GE has a great social media platform. It wasn't hard to find Caterpillar, though. Caterpillar's amazing. I mean, these guys just jumped in to social media. They have tons of blogs, tons of Facebook pages and Twitter feeds. Some of them are not that robust. Some of them just have a few fans. But they're really embracing it and trying things out and experimenting. This one right here, this is my favorite one. If you could have a favorite Caterpillar blog. This is a blog about safety. It's written by their safety consultant who's a PhD. But you have to read it because and I have to admire the Caterpillar folks, the marketing folks for this, because they just let this guy write whatever he wants. So here, he's talking about a hike he did in Peru. And at the very end of it, when you read it all the way to the end, he's talking about landslides. And then the question he asks is, when you think about the landslides in your life, the metaphorical ones, I mean, how did you deal with it? And he's not just talking about, OSHA violations. I mean, he really wants to, he's going above and beyond whatever this is. I don't know what this is, but he's going above and beyond Caterpillar equipment. He's really opening up the conversation. What does it have to do with Caterpillar? I don't know. I have no idea. Is it the appropriate message for them? I actually don't know. But I really have to admire them for trying to find out, okay, what is it? I mean, social media is about user-generated content. We need to get a blog out there for this guy. He's a really good writer, and just let him run with it. Caterpillars are very basic. Basic for the moving things around industry. I don't know what moving things around industry. So there's only so much you could talk about with that. I'm sure there's a lot of blogs out there about safety practices and workshops and seminars and so forth. They decided to take it a little bit step further and say, let's look beyond the greater world, because our vendors, our customers, they're human beings, and they probably think about a lot of other things besides moving things around. So you have to check it out. Just check out Caterpillar. Go to caterpillar.com and just see, just for fun. I saved Zappos for last because when you type in social media best practices, Zappos always comes up number one. Who's ordered shoes from Zappos? Okay. So you're really familiar with just how amazing their customer service is. The reason I chose to feature their CEO, Tony Hsieh, rather than a screenshot of their social media is because really Zappos' social media originates from this guy, Tony Hsieh. He has been quoted many times as saying that we're not a shoe company, we're a customer service business that happens to sell shoes. And from that very simple, very deceptively simple thought, he grew this company. He's not the founder. He actually was an early investor. He became the CEO in 1999. He grew the company from 1.6 million in revenues in 2000 to selling it to Amazon in 9 years for over $1 billion. So deceptively simple, very, very powerful growth. He is social to serve. He uses social media to serve his customers. He doesn't use it at all for marketing. If you go to Zappos' website, zappos.com, you won't see their social media buttons. You actually have to go to Twitter and find them there. Their blog, they don't really have a, tweet this. They don't have a like this, which a lot of us do. They don't use it for marketing. They use social media solely to serve. He actually wrote a book called Delivering Happiness, which I highly recommend you read, because that is what he sees as his mission and Zappos' mission in life. Even after Amazon bought them, he's still the CEO. His mission is to deliver happiness, not shoes. Very quick anecdote. In 2008, I'm not the kind of person who likes shoes. I'm an anomaly. I'm a woman who doesn't like shoes. For me, it's all about comfort. Comfort has to come first. So I never buy shoes online ever because I have to try it on. If I can't run at top speed on a pair of shoes, I won't wear it unless I'm speaking. So, I'm not an online shoe person, but there was a period where I had to buy a pair of formal shoes for an event, and I had this really pretty dress. So I had this idea of what I wanted, and formal dress, you're going to have to suffer. So I said, well, what does it matter then if I try it on or not? I know my size. Someone told me about Zappos, so I went to Zappos, ordered these gorgeous strappy silver shoes, 4-inch heels. And I ordered it on a Monday. The event was on Saturday. And Zappos offers free ground shipping. That's what they advertise. But I got my shoes on Tuesday. It's like, wow, that's really cool. I love it. Opened up my shoes, not happy. I was not happy at all. They were silver, but they were kind of cheap-looking silver, and they didn't quite go well with my dress. So they have a free return policy, just like LL Bean. Just put it in the box, put the label on it, and send it off to UPS. So I did that very day, then called customer service, said, I'm returning your shoes. I want the gold ones. These are not that great. And said, okay, sure. That was Tuesday, right? Wednesday, I got my gold shoes. I was shocked. They actually sent it to me before they even got the original silver shoes. I was very happy until I opened the box. Picked up the shoes, there's scuff marks on the soles. I thought, these are used shoes. What the hell? So I called back customer service and said, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was in the used shoe department of your website. I want these brand new, and it's Wednesday, and my party's on Saturday, and women, how they are. Get me my damn shoes. Said, I'm so sorry. So just send them back to us, and we'll give you a brand new pair immediately. Well, I'm impatient. I'm mad. I was probably, it was probably that time of the month, because I got on Twitter and bitched about it. Yes, I said the word. I complained about it. Said, Zappos sent me used shoes. Literally 5 minutes later, I got a tweet from Tony himself. And that's why I call him Tony. And said, it was a direct message. And those of you familiar with Twitter, there's the direct message, it's just a personal message to you. Nobody sees it, as opposed to a tweet which shows up on the public feed. He sent me a direct message and said, I am so sorry. Give me your email address and the order number. I will personally take care of it myself. Tony's very well known for doing all of his own social media. He doesn't delegate it to someone like us. He does it all himself. I was blown away. The CEO is going to take care of himself? Now, whether or not he actually went to the warehouse, wrapped it up and sent it to me, I don't know. I don't care. All I know is that he said, I will take personal responsibility for it. This was when Zappos was already making hundreds of millions of dollars. My company's not making that much, and I don't have time to do something like that. So I was blown away by that. And within like 10 minutes, I was on Twitter just singing their praises. And the fact that he did it as a direct message, as opposed to a tweet, and this guy wasn't looking for a PR hit. Nobody else would have seen it except for me. He just wanted to, what? Serve. Well, there's that, but he wanted to deliver happiness, and he did. So again, it sounds really, it's like, oh my God, that's just customer service. But you'd be surprised. Even in this economy, it seems like customer service is getting worse. So when somebody like that does something, it really stands out. So when Zappos is mentioned in the media, it's not because of their shoes, which are fine, Apparently sometimes they have used shoes. So they're fine, but they get mentioned all the time because they're a fantastic service company. And clearly they're doing something right because they're a billion-dollar company now. Okay, so what do these companies have in common? They're authentic. They're real, as street lingo says it. They're not. They make mistakes, and they own up to it. I wish I'd thought about it, but Starbucks posted a picture on Facebook about one of their summer drinks, and it was not a photo shoot picture. I showed it to my husband. It was a close-up of their new Frost, I think it is. And someone's hand was wrapped around it, and that person, I was like, oh my God, she needs a manicure so badly. That is a real company. It's like, that's okay. You've got hangnails, we've all got hangnails, but we're going to put it up on Facebook anyway. These are people who, they've inculcated social media into their company so that it really delivers that personality. Because really, you can't fake a personality. They infuse it into the whole company, and what comes out, you think, okay, that's authentic. They take risks. I love putting my favorite movies in my slides somehow. So again, with Starbucks, Caterpillar did it with their philosopher / safety director. They're not afraid to make mistakes because they know that in order to be authentic, you have to show your warts and all. That's not to say that people will be happy about your mistakes, but they know that if they do make a mistake and they own up to it, it's going to come down a lot easier on them because it shows off that authentic personality. Who remembers what happened with Kenneth Cole when he sent out a tweet during the Arab Spring? Really bad because, you know, people are dying on the streets in Egypt, and I don't remember the exact tweet, but he tied it to a sale that he was having at the time. Huge, huge PR mistake. And they didn't quite handle the aftermath very well. So they got piled on some more. Everyone's going to make a mistake. Everyone. Especially in a medium of social media where it's very instant. You know, it goes out theoretically to 1,000 people in your big brand. You've got millions of followers. You're going to make a mistake. That's why I tell my consultants, my social media coordinators, the only rule I have is do not ever swear on any of your social media accounts, even your personal ones, because I've done it, they've done it. You send the wrong tweet on the wrong account. So as long as there's no swear words in it, we're okay. You can always make, make it up for it later. But you know, you got to take risks. You got to learn to own up and take responsibilities for the mistakes you make, because people are much, much more forgiving than you think they are. They're willing to laugh at themselves. Who knows what movie this is from? Breakfast at Tiffany's. They're willing to laugh at themselves. You know, Starbucks has had a lot of stumbles on social media. IKEA has had a few stumbles on social media. Every big brand that you know of, I've had some mistakes on social media. I once tweeted something about my dog to one of my client accounts. And it wasn't a client that's currently in the room, thank God. But, you know, it wasn't exactly a business-related tweet. But, you know, it said, really sorry about that. I just happen to love my dog so much that it happened to slip out on the company tweet. You know, you just kind of recover from it really, really fast. Red Cross made a really bad mistake. Or, I'm sorry, the person who was doing the social media for Red Cross made a bad mistake and happened to tweet that she got really drunk the night before. Clearly not a Red Cross tweet. Probably was going to do it on her own personal tweet, but picked the wrong account. And it happened the same time that the Kenneth Cole thing happened. But you know what? Someone else, maybe it's the same person. Someone else jumped in and said, our volunteers are so enthusiastic. They're so stressed that sometimes they have to, you know, relieve some of that stress. And unfortunately, they relieved it all over our Red Cross Twitter page. And people laughed. You know, people are much, much more forgiving than you think they are if they know that you're honest and own up to your mistakes. If you're willing to laugh at yourself, that itself is a huge PR move. And they love their customers. Again, Tony Shea, LL Bean. I'm not talking about love your customers. I'm talking about they really, really care. And that's so rare nowadays. Okay, so you're ready to rock and roll. I know I don't have a whole lot of time left, but I wanted to go through this very quickly. Most of you are familiar with the sales funnel. But let's talk about how it relates to social media and how you can apply it to your own business. So the thing about social media that you have to remember is that unlike in the traditional sales process, the person who enters your sales funnel through social media is generally much earlier in the sales process than a lead is in offline. So you have to treat them a little bit differently. You know, they've followed you, they liked you, maybe they heard about your brand, and so they want to know a little bit more about you, but they don't want to buy yet. They may never buy. They just heard about you and want to kind of keep track of what you're doing. So generally, you know, they're just exposed to you. You're just exposed to them as a brand. But this is not where you start selling to them. You know, you need to nurture that lead a little bit more. So what do you do? What do you do when you're that early in the process? Do you send out your catalog? Do you send out your best salespeople to get on Twitter and start asking them, what do you need? How can I help you? How can I get you in this car today? No. It's a cliche, but it's true. You listen. Before you can say a word, you listen. You have to remember that people, you don't talk about yourselves. The thing you have to remember about people is they love talking about themselves. So use that. Ask them, what do you need? Find out what their needs are. Find out what their pain points are. And there's so many different ways to do that. There are a lot of listening tools that you can use. I call them listening tools. You've got a lot of free tools that hopefully you're using some of them, but these are some of the things you can find out. What is it that people need? Why are they coming to my website? Are they finding it? Are they not finding it? Where are they going? What keywords are they using? And then some social tools that would also help you figure out what it is they're talking about, what they want. Google Analytics has some really good social tracking tools. It tells you this is one of our clients, and one of the things we're really excited about is that they had 119 referrals from Twitter in a week. So that tells us, okay, we're doing something right on Twitter. So maybe we should beef that up some more. And Facebook wasn't even on here, so maybe we should just kind of scale back on Facebook, or maybe we're doing something wrong on Facebook. So that tells us something about how our social media is doing. This is that social tracking tool that I was telling you about. And this is actually a screenshot from someone else. But it tells you about the visits that you're getting from your Facebook, from all these different sites to your website. So it gives you some quick and dirty statistics on how your website's doing and how your social community that you're building is interacting with you, if at all. Google Alerts, who has a Google Alert? Who knows what Google Alerts is? Okay, most people know what a Google Alert is. If you don't, just Google Alert. But essentially, it's kind of like a clipping service where you just pick all the keywords that you want, and you get an email every day or maybe every week that tells you, okay, I have cloud computing because that's one of our clients, and that's one of their specialties. So I want to get to know more about cloud computing, so I have a Google Alert for that term. And these are all the different times that the phrase cloud computing has been mentioned on the internet. And they also do social mentions as well. So it'll tell you if cloud computing was mentioned on Twitter, although it's not as robust as some of the more sophisticated social tracking tools. It's actually a pretty good free service, and it gives you an idea as to what people are talking about and how they're talking about the topic that you're interested in. Hootsuite is a social media tool. It's a third-party tool that companies like ours use to manage and monitor our clients' social media communities. And that's why I said don't swear on Facebook or anything, even if it's your own, because we have a dashboard that has all of our client accounts on it. And you just click on the tabs that you want for each client account. So you always have to make sure you're on the right account when you're tweeting something. It helps a lot of social media companies keep track of their accounts into one dashboard so they're not opening up different accounts all at once. But they have some pretty good tools that tell you their basic reports that are free that tell you, what their most popular tweets that you've sent out, which are the ones that have been retweeted, that they've shared with their audiences. So, it gives you another good idea of the reach of your social media, of whether or not people are actually listening to you or if you're just, crickets. Okay, so what do you do once you've listened, you've spent all that time, sifting through that data, you're gathering all that data, collecting it, you've got reams and reams and reams of statistics, and your eyes are getting crossed. Well, that's when, you start learning. You find out, okay, got the numbers, what do I do with it now? Well, if you look at some of the data, here's an example. This is an actual client. Okay, here's an example of a client of ours. They're in HVAC, for those of you familiar with Carrier. This is data that we had from, I think, a month ago, over a period of 1 week. Sorry, this is actually recent. Period of about 2 weeks, I guess, 2-3 weeks. And here's all of the posts that we had. And we were looking at it and thinking, okay, we had a big spike there, but all of a sudden it decreased. Why is that? It's not going to tell me exactly. It's not like people are jumping out of the Facebook page and going, this is why your posts are not working. But one of the things that we theorized is, well, maybe these are technicians. These are HVAC dealers, and we've had 90-degree weather recently. Maybe they're just not sitting in front of their computer checking their Facebook status. So that's the kind of insight that you can get from those analytics tools. So you could shift your messaging to reflect the fact that there are certain changes, maybe a seasonal change, or maybe you had a sale. It tells you what's working, what's not. It may not be so granular that it tells you exactly what's wrong, but it does tell you that we need to change something to reflect all these, these spikes in our traffic. Okay, so that's an example of how you could take that data, the data that you've collected as you've listened, and how you can learn from it. So going back to the social funnel then, the social sales funnel, Okay, so you've gotten you figured out what it is they were interested in. You're starting to develop a community. They're clicking, they're retweeting, they're sharing it with their friends. So what happens after that? Whoop. Okay, so you could take that data, and then you could start kind of playing around with it and start experimenting with certain things on your website. Now you're starting to understand your social media. You're starting to understand what's the most popular tweets, most popular Facebook pages, what are people sharing. Then you can go back to your website, which is the hub of your, after all, it's the hub of your online marketing, right? Everything comes back to the website. What can you do with the analytics that you've used and all the social tracking you've done? What can you do to get more people back to your website? You can use it to work with your landing pages. Maybe some of the keywords that you've picked up that you've noticed that people are using on social media or in your tracking. You can get people to sign up for your newsletter. You can get people to sign up for your webinar. You can get people to download a white paper, or whatever it is that you can try to experiment with different ways that you can capture their information and take that relationship a step further, so that you're not just not just influencing them, but you're starting actively engaging them. And I don't know if you've noticed, but what's the one thing that these landing pages, maybe not the landing page so much, but these different activities, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? A very specific thing you're trying to accomplish. Engagement, but there's a very specific thing that you're trying to accomplish.
Give them value.
Get their email. Get their email address. Now you're going from a third-party site like Facebook or Twitter, now you want to actually get them in their office. There's always going to be, there still is, lots of articles about how email is dead. People are texting or tweeting. But really, I mean, what's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning? A lot of you, first thing you do before you go to the bathroom, what do? Check your email, right? I don't, but some of you might. You check your email. And you check it several times a day. Your smartphone is probably programmed so it dings every time you get an email, right? I don't know a whole lot of people who have that intimate a relationship with their Facebook page, but they do with their email. So that's where you take going from social, going to their email address. You're bringing the conversation from this third-party site to their office, to the privacy of their office, where they're not going to be distracted by what's going on in Justin Bieber's life, or whether or not their sister is pregnant, and the kind of conversation that kind of gets that gets your message lost on Facebook because you've got that fast-moving stream. Now you're capturing the attention through their email. Okay, so now going back to the sales funnel. You've got the engagement, you've got the, you've influenced them already. Now you're at this page right here. Now you're getting them to sign up for things. You're getting them to give up their email address. Now there's a way that you can actually directly market to them. That's when you start introducing new marketing into old marketing. The old marketing being the phone calls, the personalized email, the visits. Because now you've taken it so far in. When they give you their email address, I don't know about you, but I get hundreds of emails a day. If I give someone their email address, I'm interested. Because it used to be 20 years ago, I'd open up my email account, I was so excited. You have mail. Now I'm thinking, what am I going to delete, right? So when I give and it's true for a lot of you, when you give your email address to someone, I'm interested. I may not be interested in buying now, but sometime in the future I might be. And that's when new marketing meets old marketing. And then you can funnel them through the regular sales process. And then they meet the new marketing. Now you've gotten them into your system, got all these little buzzwords, and I'm not going to go through all this, but you got your CRM, you got your lead nurturing, you develop your relationships, Salesforce automation, taking it a step further from social to sales. And rinse and repeat. And grow. My colleague Jeff Brady will be discussing after me. It's so perfect. It's like we planned this, which we didn't. But he's going to talk about how, once you've got the sales, what happens after that? How can you help your brand grow? Not just social media, but once you've gotten your name out there, you've got a community built up. Okay, what next? You've sold some things, you've gotten them, got them interested. But how do you keep that conversation going? How do you keep them interested? The last thing I want to mention, it's just because it's a fascinating field for me. but even more so now that they're developing really, real cool tools. We were talking about listening tools earlier. If you have the budget, Radian 6 is a fantastic tool. I've used it a couple of times. I wish I could afford it. It's about $600 an account. I don't think my accounts will pay for that. But it's the big daddy of social media tools. Salesforce recently bought them. So if you're kind of geeky like me and you want to know a little bit more about all this, then I would look into Radian 6 because you can take all the things like Google does and Hootsuite and so forth and put it all into this wonderful service times 10 and really get some great granular data about your social media. Maybe make it move a lot faster because you're getting better data. So, questions? Really? I covered everything? There's nothing? Yes.
You have a company that isn't customer focused, that isn't good like these other ones, and they want to do social media, and they can't back it up anywhere near what these other guys who are truly excellent do. What do you do?
You got to start with the customer service first. It's like when with some of our clients, what we tell them, especially if we have no control, for example, of their website. They've developed their website, horrible website. At that point, they always want to say, well, how can I justify the money I'm spending on you? Well, what we do is we're going to send you leads. What happens after that, we can't be responsible for. And I'll tell them, your website sucks. I call you and I get a voicemail, never get a call back. You have to fix that first. LL Bean and Zappos did not become billion-dollar companies because they know social media. They became billion-dollar companies. Social media is an afterthought because they know customer service. So they got to fix that first. Because if any mistakes in customer service, it's going to show up on Twitter a lot faster if they had it. If it was really bad service.
Other questions?
You said something about classes when you started your comments. Are there certain ones you'd recommend?
Yeah, and we can talk about it afterwards. There's tons around here, and there's a few that I would recommend. Mm-hmm. Yes, Laura.
How long would you review your analytics before you would recommend making a change? Is there a period of time that you would suggest on average?
I generally like to look at like 2-3 months before I make a decision. The problem is that, especially in the past 6 to 9 months, Google's done a ton of changes that have nothing to do with social media. So you could be doing some great work, but for whatever reason, you get dinged. So you have to ride that out and then start looking, okay, maybe it's an anomaly, or maybe there's something bigger that we have to look at. But 2-3 months is a good benchmark.
So I'm totally touched by the social sales funnel. Is that a Marjorie original?
No, I wish it were someone else. I cribbed that from someone.
My heart was just, oh God, a social sales funnel.
I knew you would like that. Well, I knew you'd like that. David said, "Oh, Terry's gonna love that."
Thank you so much,
welcome.
Marjorie.